I can listen to that for a long time. Great song. Kung Fu Fighting, the infighting among the Democrats, and also Trump and others finally starting to fight back. It's beautiful. Students in California, grades 4 to 8. Study found that the black kids were suspended or punished more than the white kids for being unruly. So what to do? What do the nuts in California do? Can't blame the teachers. Can't blame the black kids or the black families. So they came up with a new law. No more punishing any of the students for being unruly. What the hell is this country coming to? We have a culture of laws, and we expect some type of discipline for our students for being unruly. It's a certain amount of decor standards that we have. Not in California. Bye-bye. My last show, I believe, I talked about hot dogs. I talked about culture. I said, what about hot dogs? Maybe you want to go have a hot dog, American culture. Well, de Blasio in New York is outlawing hot dogs. No more hot dogs in schools or public places. So your kid can't have a hot dog. And yeah, Nathan's hot dog eating contest. Bye-bye, I guess, because that's on out in a public area on a wharf. So what the hell is happening to our culture? All right, let's go through some news. A lot of the candidates are going to be in the news all the time. I was watching CNN. John Kasich. He was running for president. Remember him, that guy? What a loser. Anyway, on CNN, he lied about our president. John Kasich, liar. He sucks. Sucks for doing that. He said that our president said that in Charlottesville, there were good people on both sides, and that's it. Well, that's completely taken wrong, out of context, and a lie. Trump said that there were bad people on both sides and that there were some good people on both sides. That would be a true statement. Also, Joe Biden, Lion Joe, said the same thing. Joe Biden also quoted Thomas Jefferson on CNN. But, hey, Joe, Jefferson statues are being taken down all over the country. Hypocrite. Report. McCain family will back Joe Biden for president. Well, that's great, Joe. 10 votes for you. It's not a very big voting block there. Bernie. In the 80s, Bernie spoke of socialist Nicaraguan revolutionaries known as the Sandinistas so often that one local paper called it a favorite Sanders topic. The Soviet Union and Cuba sent weapons and economic supports to these same Sandinistas, while President Reagan sent arms and funding to the Contras. The U.S. involvement appalled Sanders back then. As soon as he became mayor of Burlington in 1981, his pro-Sandinistas views began to make headlines in local newspapers. Sanders exhorted his audience to take control of your own lives, as the struggling masses did in Chile, Cuba, and Nicaragua. The next year, the Nicaraguan government invited Sanders to an all-expenses-paid trip for the formal inauguration of their president, the Sandinista revolutionary Daniel Ortega. Ortega makes good potato chips. What Sanders accepted, recounting his 1997 autobiography, that I was, believe it or not, the highest ranking American official president. How about that? You know, when I look it up, Presidente Sanders just was not a president of the United States. Also, Bernie has ties to Russia. So there's a great pick for you. Pete Buttigieg. Mayor Pete Buttigieg told an audience in March that sexual harassment has no place in our country. Pete Buttigieg was just accused of sexual assault on a 21-year-old boy from Michigan. Sick people. 5-year-old girl hospitalized, undergoes surgery after Alabama man allegedly rapes her. Sick. This guy, Buttigieg is going to get this guy's vote. Chicago prosecutor Kim Foxx subpoenaed over Juicy Smollett case. I told you this thing isn't going to end. But finally, some fighting back. She is being subpoenaed, and hopefully there'll be charges brought against her for not doing what she was supposed to do. Fairness to all, including Juicy, and also that other girl that I mentioned in my last video, where she was bringing charges against this woman for doing a false police report that was pretty minor, that not in any way had the impact that Juicy had, and was let go. Okay, Trump. Trump's in the news as always. No Russia. Walls being built. Stock market at all-time high. Unemployment all-time lows. Wages are rising. Manufacturing's up on the international scene. Fair trade agreements being enforced. The UN. ISIS crushed. Basically an A+. Trump is guilty, but not of collusion. Guilty of greatness. All right, I promised you on the last show that I was going to do something on the presidents, the Democrat candidates that are running for president. So I got something fairly quick here to run through. And these are in no particular order. But number one on here is Joe Biden. Crazy lying nutcase Joe Biden. The stalker, the head holding, hair sniffing weirdo. Pete Buttigieg, boy rapist. Julian Castro, Cuban dictator. Joe Delaney, Maryland rep. Don't need to say much more about that. Baltimore. Tulsi Gabbard, Hawaii. She's the one who, well, she wouldn't be a good president because she'd never be here, because she'd always be boating back, taking the boat back and forth to Hawaii because of the Green New Deal thing. You can't have planes, so she would never be here. So I don't even know why she's on the list. Kristen Gillibrand, she's a New York nut. Kamala Harris, she's another nut. John Hickenlooper. Who? Jay Inslee. Huh? Amy Klobuchar. She was that woman who went after Kavanaugh, attacked Kavanaugh, made up all that crazy stuff that Kavanaugh was, he was just a good, the best good kid, basically. A lot better than I was when I was in college. But anyway, she was saying that he was, part of a sex ring and all this crazy nonsense stuff, It was a good thing. Kavanaugh, if you remember, they go after Kavanaugh and say that he did all these terrible things to all these people and sex rings and all this crazy stuff, and that he was at certain places raping women and all this kind of stuff at certain times. But no one knew that Kavanaugh had a diary because his father had a diary. So he kept the tradition going and also had a diary. And he put down every single place that he went and who he went with and what time he went. It was amazing. It was just, but without that, he probably would have gotten screwed over. But he was able to prove from his own diary entries exactly where he was on particular days when they said he was somewhere else raping someone. Klobuchar. Wayne Messam. Well, he's just way too popular. Seth Moulton. He's a masshole. Beto O'Rourke. That's the hands guy. And arms. Hands and arms. Skateboard dude. He's got the skateboard people, I guess, voting for him. So that's something. Tim Ryan. Maybe 0.01% for him. And the last guy, Andrew Yang. He's the $1,000 a month guy. He's going to give everyone, I don't know where the age cutoff is. He said everyone gets $1,000 a month. I guess if you have a lot of children and they can also get $1,000 a month, then that'd be great. Because our population's decreasing. We need more people. But I don't think it applies to them. I think it's just for the parents. I think. I'm not sure. You'd have to ask him. But dude, I can't live on $1,000 a month. I'd rather have jobs. Make mucho dinero. So, there's a few more. Sorry about that. Bernie Sanders. Crazy Bernie. Great choice. Eric Swalwell. That's a California guy. So California is always in the news. Our children there are no more disciplined because, go figure. Elizabeth Warren, she's another masshole. I'm from Mass, so I can say that. I've lived here long enough to say that so yeah, masshole. One more, I guess. Marianna Williamson, spiritual leader. Let's do some spiritual healing right now. Let's pray that God keeps Trump our president. Thank you, Marianne Williamson, the spiritual leader. I have some statistics I want to go over. It's hard to find stuff. You go to Google and wherever you want information that shows something that that they don't want to be disseminated, you just can't find it. It's really difficult. It's unbelievable. It's unbelievable how difficult and how they hide things and suppress information that they just don't want to be out there. So I got a map here of the most violent places on Earth. So let me put this up. Let's see here. We can, yeah, it's pretty good. Like that. Yeah, good. All right. So, number 1, Los Cabos, Mexico. This is where they have the most deadliest shootings and death from shootings or stabbings, beheadings, what have you. Number 2, Caracas, Venezuela. Number 2. Number 3, Acapulco, Mexico. Number 4, Natal, Brazil. Number 5, Tijuana, Mexico. Pretty good, Mexico. 3 of the top 5. The U.S. is doing pretty good, too. They got number 13, St. Louis. And number 21 in the world also, Baltimore. Who guessed that one? 5 points for that. So we can see the people that are coming to this country, where they're from. It's from the deadliest places on earth. Also, I want to run down the top 10. You already know number 1 and number 2. Let's go down the top 10 of the most deadly cities with the highest homicide rates per capita in America. Number 1, St. Louis. Number 2, Baltimore. Number 3, Detroit. Number 4, New Orleans. 5, Kansas City. Then Cleveland, Memphis, Newark, New Jersey, Chicago, and Cincinnati. Geez, I wonder who runs these cities. I wonder why. I wonder what the gun laws are like there. We all know. They're all run by Democrats. They're all Democrat controlled, and they all have strict gun laws. And they're all the deadliest, highest homicide rates in our country. 2 of them even in the top 20, well, 21. 2 of them make the top 21 in the world. Congratulations. What a great top 10 here. So what's the big news during the weekend was the California synagogue shootings. Terrible thing. Big shame. Awful. It's all over the news. But let's keep things in perspective here. There was 1 person that was killed. 1. Uno. So let's take a look at some other statistics before we start talking about the synagogue shooting. In America, in 2017, there were 17,284 murders. That's 47 a day. You don't really hear much about that, though. No. On a state basis, the synagogue shooting happened in California. In California last year, there were 1,830 murders. That's 5 a day. You don't really hear much about that. No. In Chicago, there's 660 murders in 2017. That's 2 a day. Every day. You don't really hear much about that, though. In Baltimore, which is smaller, much smaller population-wise, there's 1 a day. But you don't really hear much about that, do you? No. Why is that? Well, I don't want to leave out St. Louis That's probably 2 or 3 a day. I don't know. Nothing that that the news will cover. So there's nothing said about that, but there's, every day these murders, these many, 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 many murders. However, we did hear a lot about what happened in California, the synagogue shooting, and still hearing it. It's very interesting. You have any ideas about that? Why is that? Why is this one murder being dominated on the news, yet the 17,284 in 2017 murders are not? Well, I spoke about this in a previous show. I've told people, especially the first 2 shows, are just an informative baseline of thinking type show, something for you all to watch. It's because this murder is a hate crime. And because of that, it gets all this attention. Now, I spoke about it in the previous show. I mean, a hate crime. Really? Really a hate crime? Well, what are these other crimes? Are they love crimes? Never heard of a love crime. Did you hear about this this hate crime stuff? And when there is one, wow, it's like the end of the world. But what that does, though, it's really discriminatory towards these other crimes, to these other murders. It minimizes the value of these other people. And I spoke about this before. They're all hate crimes. There's just no such thing as a love crime. If it's a murder, it's a murder. And another thing, too, is that the 17,284 people in America that were murdered, they should be given the attention equally. Now, why do they say hate crimes, and why are they emphasized so much? Well, usually the hate crime is exaggerated when it's a white person who maybe kills a black person. And then we say, oh my God, it's a hate crime. But in this instance, the hate crime was against a Jewish person who's white. So the black people in Baltimore or Chicago or St. Louis that are being killed every single day get no coverage because those aren't hate crimes, because 99% of them is black on black. So it's almost like it doesn't happen, according to the news. They just totally ignore that. They don't address it. Another reason why is because those cities are being run by Democrats. So they don't want that to be exposed. The only thing they want to put on the news is a hate crime. But unfortunately for the black people, this hate crime that happened in California, the synagogue shooting, was not against a black person. So they get zero coverage. They don't even get that. Tell you what, anyone that gets killed by anyone, to me, it's a hate crime. We got to start treating all these things more fairly, more equally. And when there are huge numbers of killing, even if it's in a Democratic-run city, we need to expose that, expose those people that are in control of these cities, and look at what the problem is there and why all these people are dying. We need to all look at this as we are all Americans. We are all protected under the laws by no matter who is the villain and no matter who is the victim. We should all be protected. That's my final word. More love. And more fairness for all. So go ahead and post. I'd love to have your feedback on that thought. And have a great night.